teams face off this Sunday when the Eagles take on the Bills. Jalen Hurts and the Philly offense have seemingly righted the ship with 2 dominant wins over the past 2 weeks. Meanwhile, Josh Allen has led Buffalo on a 4-game win streak, which gives the Bills a chance to steal the AFC East title from the Patriots. And while the Bills may have already clinched their spot in the postseason, Josh Allen has set his sights on something bigger.
The way that I put it in terms is to win the lottery, you got to buy a ticket. To win a Super Bowl, you got to make the playoffs. Getting into the playoffs is our ticket. Now, what we do with that is up to us.
Everybody's got good one-liners. So you got Mike Tomlin. You've got for entertainment purposes only. You got Josh Allen talking about the lottery ticket and making it to the postseason. So as we look through these quarterbacks right now ahead of this matchup, who would you rather have in the postseason? Would it be Jalen Hurts or Josh Allen?
Ooh, that's tough. I'm going to go Josh Allen. And here's the deal. Josh Allen to me is Superman, right? He does significantly more with less. If you look at his receiving core versus what Jalen Hurts has, you would say advantage there, right? And so when I look at Josh Allen's,
well, wait a minute here. Jalen Hurts has a better receiving core, first of all. His guys are better. But Jalen Hurts is a stud, man. He's been to 2 Super Bowls. He's won 1. Not necessarily because he's a great quarterback, but he's been on some great teams, played great team defense, great running game, great offensive line, good tight ends and wide receivers. He's not necessarily the reason, but he also doesn't hurt him, though, either. He kind of reminds me of what he was in college with Alabama, right? If you build that type of Alabama team around him, excellent rushing attack, quality wide receivers, tight ends, Goddard, great running back, Saquon Barkley, excellent offensive line. He can make it work with a great team. A lot of people, not necessarily could. So there is something to be said for Jalen Hurts. He is an excellent quarterback, but if you're going to put him up against Josh Allen, for my money, I'll take 17.
He has put this team on his back a number of times. They have literally one of the worst, if not the worst, run defense in the NFL. They have given up 5 different rushers 100-plus yard games. 4 have had a $140. And for him to be carrying this team into the playoffs, and literally, y'all, when you look at the AFC, they have a real shot. If their defense can just Band-Aid it, they got a shot. And why? Because of Josh Allen. And so I would just say, with no disrespect to Jalen Hurts, who is a freaking baller in and of himself, I would lean my way towards Josh Allen.
Yeah, no disrespect to Jalen Hurts. Dude, Jalen Hurts just won a Super Bowl against Kansas City Chiefs. So first and foremost, Jalen Hurts led a team that did something that Josh Allen hasn't been able to do. I love Josh Allen. I'm a Buffalo Bills fan, full disclosure. But Josh Allen, we haven't been able to beat Kansas City. It's not Josh Allen's fault. He's left the field in great position to win a game against Kansas City a couple of times, but the defense didn't hold up. But Hurts, they got it done. They won the Super Bowl against Kansas City, so you got to give him credit. He's been to 2 Super Bowls. Kansas City beat him in 1, and they beat Kansas City last year. Obviously, Kansas City's been beating a lot of teams the past 5 or 6, 7 years, so, you can't blame Jalen Hurts for the first Super Bowl loss. In fact, Jalen Hurts played great in the first Super Bowl loss to Kansas City. There was the big fumble. That was probably the difference in the game, but I don't put that on Hurts, man. He got him. Hurts is a good quarterback. He doesn't get the credit because he doesn't necessarily have the precision passing capabilities. He doesn't throw with timing and rhythm. He doesn't throw guys open, basically. You know what I mean? He needs to kind of see the guy open before he pulls the trigger. He doesn't throw guys open with timing and anticipation, and that's really what the crux of it is. That's what the knock on Jalen is.
I don't know if this is your doing this question or if it's a producer. This is a question that's designed to cause trouble.
Yeah.
And I think you had a very respectful answer. It's not.
It
it's
is.
Not even close.
It's a tough
It's
question.
And that's coming from an Eagles fan who loves Jalen Hurts. But Jalen needs a whole lot to go right to reach his maximum potential.
And that's what I was saying.
Great O-line, great wide receivers, great running back,
great running game,
defense, and then the Rams don't win the game at the end, right? There was a lot that. Now, he played his ass off in that Super Bowl, won Super Bowl MVP. I cashed that ticket again. I like him very much. And he did.
This is what makes this debate so hard because Jalen Hurts really does need a lot to go right around him for him to be in position. But when it does go right around him, he's a killer, right? And he was at Alabama too. And, I know that Tua came in Alabama and won that one national championship game, and then he went to Oklahoma. But he's a killer. But the thing is he does need a lot of things to go right. Where Josh Allen, he covers for a lot of weaknesses on the Bills. The Bills have a lot of weaknesses that if Jalen Hurts was on the Bills and Josh Allen was on the Eagles probably would be maybe undefeated or only lost one game. And if Jalen Hurts was on the Bills, we may not make the playoffs. That's how I'll explain it. That makes the most sense, right? If you were to switch the quarterbacks on the different teams, Josh Allen would be a Super Bowl favorite and a league MVP on the Eagles, and vice versa. Jalen Hurts, he would maybe make the playoffs as a while. Maybe it would be up to the last game of the year to try to figure out if he would make the playoffs with the Bills.
But Allen's never been the reason that Buffalo has lost in the playoffs. Never once.
Yeah.
Kincaid, make a catch. Field goal kicker, convert a field goal. Kickoff team, make a tackle. Yeah. Defense, get a singular stop at any point in some of these Kansas City games.
13 seconds.
Allen is the guy who puts the team on his back and puts you in a position to win. You're only there because of him. Hurts has had those games, but the consistency level and what he needs in order for everything to go right, it's Allen by a mile here.
Yeah, by a mile. Absolutely.
Y'all went for who the best player is.
Yes.
Josh Allen, the best player.
Well, this was a trend.
Yes, Josh Allen's the best player.
Josh Allen, beyond Matthew Stafford and the way he's playing, Josh Allen probably going to win his second MVP. Josh Allen is the best quarterback to me in the NFL right now because of all of the things that y'all said. I've seen Jalen Hurts win the Super Bowl.
Absolutely.
I've seen him in the playoffs do what needed to be done to win a Super Bowl. Now, I know Josh Allen has to play against Patrick Mahomes. He had Joe Burrow come to his place and lose. It's been a harder path. The quarterbacks have been over there. The AFC is a harder path this year than it is to me in the NFC. But when you think about this question, rather have Hurts or Allen, I went strictly off what I've seen. I saw him throw for 300 yards in the Super Bowl. I saw him play against the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't give a damn if your defensive line was hitting Patrick Mahomes across his head. You still had to go out there and score points and put him on the board. In a year where Saquon Barkley was arguably the best player in football, he had to throw the football in the Super Bowl to win the game. The first Super Bowl, he had to throw the football to win the game. So it's not about and fans are going to get this misconstrued. Swagoo thinks Jalen Hurts is better than Josh Allen. Don't give a damn. They not listening.
Listen, I know exactly what he's saying. He's saying what I was saying earlier in the podcast. Like, basically, Jalen Hurts has accomplished more than Josh Allen. Josh Allen is a better player. Josh Allen is the reigning league MVP. Jalen Hurts has never been even really in the MVP conversation. Jalen Hurts beat Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl last year and almost beat them in his first Super Bowl appearance against them. And Josh Allen has never beaten Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs in the playoffs. So Jalen Hurts has accomplished more. Josh Allen is the better player, the more talented player. He's the more dynamic player. He's the guy you would start your franchise with if all things being equal, if you had to pick, Jalen Hurts or Josh Allen, and they were both coming out of the draft as rookies, Jalen Hurts was like a third-round pick. You're a second-round pick. I don't know, third-round pick. Josh Allen went 7th overall to the Bills, and he is a stud. I mean, he is the better quarterback. They're both actually very dynamic with their legs. I think career rushing touchdowns, Josh Allen just set the record and passed Cam Newton at like 75 career rushing touchdowns from quarterback. I believe Jalen Hurts has like 61. He's the next closest guy that can pass up Cam Newton, and he will eventually pass up Cam Newton, and he'll be the guy that's right behind Josh Allen. He also is very dynamic in the red zone with his legs rushing for touchdowns. So it's interesting. It's an interesting conversation.
Josh Allen, let me say it again, is the best, arguably, because Matthew Stafford is absolutely in that conversation. Yeah.
I'll tell you what with Matthew Stafford. I'm only going to stop this real quick to tell you. It's the same thing. If you put Matthew Stafford on the Buffalo Bills, he would not have, 40-plus touchdowns or on pace for 50. If you put Josh Allen on the Rams with Sean McVay's coaching ability, his offensive mind, and their vertical passing offense, forget about it. Josh Allen would have 50 touchdowns passing and probably 10 or 11 rushing. It would be unbelievable. Josh Allen is actually he's actually held back by his defensive-minded head coach, Sean McDermott, who doesn't allow him to throw the ball vertically. They don't have boundary receivers in Buffalo. In fact, that's by design. Sean McDermott has overcorrected and taken away the vertical passing game from Josh Allen. He's literally taken it away from him. They draft big, dumb, slow wide receivers like Keon Coleman, and they got practice squad guys, journeymen like, Shavers. I like Shavers. He's literally an undrafted free agent that's been on the practice squad for years. That's who they're giving Josh Allen, the league MVP, to work with. That's who they're giving him. They're bringing Gabe Davis back, who's like coming off an ACL and looks honestly, Gabe's not terrible. He just looks like he's got maybe he's a little overweight, like 15 pounds, 20 pounds overweight. He doesn't have elite athleticism and speed really anymore like he did early on. And Buffalo doesn't give Josh Allen any boundary receivers. So as far as the Matt Stafford versus Josh Allen thing, you take Josh Allen and you put him on the Rams with Sean McVay's offensive mind, with Sean McVay's vertical passing game, with Puka Nacua, with Devontae Adams, everybody that they got. Dude, Josh Allen would be far and away league MVP with 50-plus passing touchdowns. He would set the touchdown record because Sean McVay is a dog when it comes to offense. He's going for it. He's going to put he's not afraid to put 50 points on the board in a game. Sean McDermott is conservative. If Sean McDermott gets a 10-point lead, he slows down and mucks it out for the rest of the game. He don't want to embarrass the other coach. He's a very conservative guy, and he's way overcorrected with Josh. He's taken away the boundary receivers. He has no one to throw to.
For this particular year, overall, to me, Josh Allen is the guy you take when you start talking about who you want at that position. But who I'd rather have is the guy that I've seen do it before. Against the teams that we talked about shouldn't lose. They should be unbeatable. And all of these elements that you talk about, Joe, you make a great point about what happened for Jalen Hurts in the playoffs. Every quarterback has needed that. Patrick Mahomes needed Chris Jones to get a rush. Matthew Stafford needed Aaron Donald to put pressure on Joe Burrow not to make a throw that.
Well, don't forget, Patrick Mahomes needed Tyreek Hill early on. When Patrick Mahomes was first winning Super Bowls, the first Super Bowl against the 49ers, they're losing in the fourth quarter by double digits. Tyreek Hill makes an amazing play down the field. I think he makes like a 20 or 25 yard. He goes up and then does a quick comeback, but at like a depth of 20 to 25 yards. Bang, critical play in the fourth quarter. Patrick Mahomes needed Tyreek Hill. Patrick Mahomes needed that running back that they have that runs real nasty and physical in the last couple Super Bowls and runs. I forget his name. He's been kind of hurt on and off this year and last year, but he's been a physical running back for them. He needed Travis Kelce, right? A Hall of Fame tight end. He needed a Hall of Fame coach, Andy Reid. Patrick Mahomes needed a lot of stuff too. That Josh Allen didn't get handed a Hall of Fame offensive mind like Andy Reid. Freshman year when he first started his rookie year. And that's what Mahomes had. Mahomes sat for a year and learned behind Alex Smith on a playoff caliber team, and then comes in the next year with Andy Reid as his coach, and just boom, Tyreek Hill is a wide receiver, Travis Kelce, he just ran with it,
Probably would have ended up losing. So all of those elements are reserved for every quarterback. We have never said, and this is my problem when it comes to Jalen Hurts. And Joe, no, I'm not gonna fight you on this, but I hear this conversation. Remember before the season started, we had a conversation about, well, is Jalen Hurts really a good quarterback? Right. Or how much credit does he deserve?
Top 10, whatever.
Well, show me one that didn't need a defensive play.
Amen.
I remember DeMarcus Ware and Von Miller killing Cam Newton.
I guess what you could say though, if you took Jalen Hurts and you put him on the Atlanta Falcons, or you took Jalen Hurts and you put him on like Carolina Panthers, or you took Jalen Hurts and you put him on a number of teams, Jalen Hurts would look pedestrian and look average. He would look like nothing special. You put him on Miami, he would probably look nothing special. Because he needs that physical bully running game. He needs the defense that can really lock it down. He's never going to be a guy that wins shootouts either. I don't think, although it's interesting because he hung a lot of points on Kansas City in both Super Bowls. So, I say that, but it's hard to say. I don't know. Maybe Jalen Hurts is capable of the shootout ball, but he just typically, he has a mindset for the Alabama ball, and that's what they play, and that's what he plays best. Maybe he could do the shootout thing. I don't know. Maybe he really is a stud, and he just prefers to play like a killer, ground and pound. He's like what in UFC, he would be like a jiu-jitsu guy. Right, everybody else is trying to stand up and fight and kick and stuff, and he'd take you to the ground and choke you out.
That offensive line to win a Super Bowl. But everybody talks about how good Peyton Manning was, even though the defensive player won MVP of the Super Bowl.
Right.
That is just how it goes. Jalen Hurts has showed on these runs that the Philadelphia Eagles have made Jalen Hurts has showed up as much as any other quarterback,
for sure,
Mahomes included, because there is one quarterback in this conversation that has beaten Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, respect.
Jalen Hurts.
Sure. Right.
Respect.
So I would rather have Hurts for those reasons, not because he's a better quarterback.
Look, respect. It's a balanced argument. He's not wrong. Like, look, we talked about this earlier. Josh Allen, although Josh Allen's numbers in the playoffs are phenomenal, I mean, I would personally rather have nobody than Josh Allen. But look, I mean, Hurts and the Eagles, they beat Mahomes in the Super Bowl at the highest level, at the highest stakes. And in the first one, they really could have. If it wasn't for the Hurts fumble, they were going blow for blow, toe to toe. He could have had 2 against Mahomes. So he's a killer in his own right, man. I mean, I got a lot of respect for Jalen Hurts. I just don't. I think everybody would agree he's just not the better player. The better player, the higher upside, the better talent is Josh Allen. But that doesn't mean that Hurts isn't a killer. It doesn't mean that Hurts, he's played in 2 Super Bowls, he's won 1. That's more than Joe Burrow. That's more than Lamar Jackson. There's a lot of people that he's accomplished more than, not just Josh Allen. That's pretty impressive. He's been to more Super Bowls than Matt Stafford, and he won 1. So I mean, respect.
Then Josh Allen.
I hear you on all of that, but I hear something a little louder. You said the AFC is a harder.
And by the way, respect, but we'll see you this week in Buffalo, pal. And we coming to get you, man. We're coming out with some dogs.
Path this year than the NFC. I thought the AFC is as wide open as it's been, but you think that's harder?
So, Corey, from my when we talking about Allen and Hurts, this is a very flawed Buffalo Bills team.
But it's a Buffalo Bills team that's not going to have to go through Kansas City. Very likely not going to have to go through Baltimore. No Joe Burrow in there.
The way Denver, Jacksonville is playing right now, would you take New England? Would you take, is Buffalo clearly a favorite in the?
If Buffalo went to New England to play in the playoffs, they would be favored. Probably the same, like by a point or a point and a half. Just like they were in this last game. They went to New England. New England could have won the AFC East. It was a hat and t-shirt game. We beat them in New England. Really, we probably should have beat them in Buffalo. We lost by 3 points. It was a weird game. The first half of that game, the refs called 8 penalties against the Bills. They called 1 penalty against New England. They threw off the rhythm of the entire first half of that game. They were way too involved. Ticky-tack fouls, first and 10, 10-yard holding call. Now it's first and 20 on some, phantom weak call. The refs really overly got involved in that game. So, yes, if Buffalo played the Patriots, even in New England, we'd probably be favored by a point or a point and a half. I think if we played Denver in Denver, Buffalo would be probably favored by 2.5 points, maybe even a full field goal, 3.5 points. So we would be favored in New England and in Denver. If we played, interestingly enough, though, if the Bills had to play the Jags in Jacksonville, I don't know if they'd be favored, actually. I think that might be a push. That would either be a pick'em game, or maybe even it would be the Jags maybe minus 1.5. I think the Jags would actually be the one team in the top 3. Obviously, if the Bills finish in 5th seed and they play the Steelers in the 4th seed in Pittsburgh, we're going to be favored probably by 6.5. We just went to Pittsburgh and beat them 20-something to 7 or 10 or something. We just went into Pittsburgh and slapped them around a couple weeks ago. And Pittsburgh's actually been playing better ball since then, so don't underestimate Pittsburgh. Their running game has gone to another level. They had over 230 yards rushing on the road against the Lions, and they're ready. If they get to the playoffs, they're ready. They're going to play that physical. They're going to rush at us just like we rushed at them. They're going to try to exploit our weak run defense. So don't sleep on Pittsburgh. Don't think because you get the 5 seed that you're just going to walk into Pittsburgh and beat them. I think you'll be favored in that game. That would be like the odds. That's what Vegas would say. You'll be favored by probably 3.5 or 5 or 6, 6.5, but you could lose that game. Pittsburgh's been playing better ball.
AFC?
I think so.
I don't think so. I don't think. I think if the New England Patriots were to beat the Buffalo Bills, I don't think nobody a bad eye. We'll say Buffalo played well. We just watched the performance Allen had to put together to come back 21 down against New England.
Yeah, that's true, but I think we learned a lot from that. Look, the coaches, they waited too long. There was at least 2 cowardly punts in that New England game in New England in the first half of that game where we're on the New England 44, 45, and we're punting. Okay, that's got to get corrected, and I think it would be in a playoff game. We also waited to the second half to bring any kind of real pressure, to blitz linebackers, to blitz safeties, to blitz DBs. That has to happen sooner. They need to make those adjustments sooner in games. They need to be in the game sooner and not be behind 21, 24-7. That's unacceptable. And I think in the next meeting, if we get together with New England again, it will be corrected earlier. We have a real good sense of who they are now.
When I look at the NFC, and I don't think that the Philadelphia Eagles are a dominant football team, but I saw the Los Angeles Rams lose to the Carolina Panthers, and I saw Sam Darnold throw.
Yo, listen, don't even say you saw the Rams lose to the Panthers. During the season, this time of the year, you got to admit that Vegas has a lot of influence. And if you look at that Rams game in Charlotte, in North Carolina, I think like probably 93% of all money, parlays, bets, money lines, all the money was on the Rams. So you don't tell me that they don't have influence on the games. I don't care what anybody says. That Rams game in Carolina meant nothing to me. So that meant nothing to me. It's a matchup league, and if the Eagles, depending on who the Eagles play, if they match up with a team really well, where they can run and stop the run, and Hurts can get a couple of balls over the top, hey, they can probably play with anybody.
Interception after interception. I think harder, no, but you talk about teams more maybe on an even playing field, I understand that. But when I look at the AFC, and I look at if this was Buffalo 2 years ago, I say clearly Buffalo is about to run through these playoffs. But the fact that Patrick Mahomes and Lamar is not going to be in the playoffs, I think actually makes it harder. Josh Allen has to do Superman things for this team to win a Super Bowl. And the reason why we have...
No, that's not correct. Josh Allen only has to do Superman things if we fall behind in the game. That's it. Because typically what Buffalo does, if Buffalo gets the opportunity and they can control the game, and what does that mean? That means time of possession. That means physicality on the offensive line where they can run the ball with James Cook and get the swing passes to Ty Johnson out of the backfield, and maybe even bring in Ray Davis for a few carries and get some kick returns from him. You know, if they can get the physicality in the running game going and they get balls to their tight ends, Kincaid and Knox, it opens everything up. And they typically can be out, like in Cleveland. Cleveland, they won ugly, but they scored like 3 touchdowns in the first half. They're up 21-10 going into the half. You know, look, that's the kind of ball they can play. If the game is like even or they're ahead, forget about it. He doesn't have to be Superman. He just has to be efficient. And ideally, that's what they want. Now, what the fear is in Buffalo is you've handicapped him and you've overcorrected. You've taken away his vertical passing game. You've given him nothing on the boundary receivers intentionally, I believe. And so now, if you fall behind in the playoffs, good luck, because now he has to try to come back and he has to overcome the fact that you've handicapped him. You know, essentially, I believe Buffalo's organization has tied Josh Allen's hand behind his back with what they've done on the boundary receiver position. And I think it's intentional. I think they just, I've talked about this in other podcasts. I feel like they don't want to give him anything elite down the field because he'll hold the ball and only look for the elite guy down the field and miss all the checkdowns, all the tight ends, all the running backs. He'll never look at them until it's too late and they're not open. And then he has to run around like it looks like hero ball or chuck up an arm punt, where he throws a deep interception because nobody's open. And so, this is kind of the catch-22. So, God forbid, if we get into the playoffs and we got to actually make a comeback, double-digit comeback like in the fourth quarter and we're pressed for time, I mean, good luck, man. You don't have the receivers to really do it, So it is what it is. You got to come out and control the line of scrimmage. You got to take the game to the opponent. You got to control the ball, control the game. Basically, the way Buffalo's built this team, they have to win like Philadelphia, which is why this conversation is so interesting. Because Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane have basically rendered Josh Allen to be Jalen Hurts, right? They've taken away any deep there is no deep passing game. There's only a deep passing game if a player catches the ball and then runs with it after the catch. You don't got guys catching the ball 17, 20, 25 yards down the field. It won't happen. They won't even throw it. They won't even try that. I think they've tried it once in the last 5 games. It was one ball to Mecole Hardman. And that was just like whatever. I think that was just to shut the fans up.
Confidence is because we think he can.
Sure.
But I could easily see the Denver Broncos beating the Buffalo Bills or the Jacksonville Jaguars based on where they're playing. So that's how I look at it.
And that's a good place to go. As we look at like first round exits, who, Joe, would be the more disappointing one? Would it be the Bills, the path that they'd have to go through, or would it be the Philadelphia Eagles?
It'd be the Bills. It'd be far more disappointing than the Bills. Everything around Allen outside of Cook is a major problem this year. The Bills have failed their quarterback because in the window where they're caught in the break of all breaks, no Lamar, No Burrow, no Mahomes. You weren't ready to capitalize.
This would have been your year. They weren't ready.
That's going to be something that haunts them forever. That's
they weren't
why
ready.
He needs to.
They weren't ready, and the fan base knew it, and that's why early this year after the draft, Brandon Beane came out with that aggressive nonsense about, I forget what he even said. I'm going to pull it up just for podcast purposes at some point, but Brandon Beane just got real aggressive and nasty after the draft, trying to really just protect his coach and protect his image. But, the bottom line is they've been failing at the wide receiver position, and I believe it's almost intentional. They've wanted to take that away from Josh. Because honestly, here's the problem. It's a catch-22. Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott can't come out in the media and say, hey, listen, we can't give that to Josh because if we give it to Josh, Josh is going to stand there with the ball and he's only going to look for that. He's only going to look for the deep ball down the field. He's only going to look for the elite speed guy down the field. That's all he's going to do. And when he does that, he's going to miss Khalil Shakir. He's going to miss Dalton Kincaid. He's going to miss James Cook. He's going to miss Ty Johnson. And by the time he comes back to them at the check down, they're going to be covered or the route's going to be over. The run after the catch opportunity is going to be gone. Right? When you run a run after the catch offense, it's like a West Coast offense. The players run these short routes, these mesh routes, these slant routes, these backs out of the backfield routes. You got to hit them quickly so that they catch the ball and they can move straight upfield, get it and go. Right? You can't look downfield for a speed guy for 2.5, 3 seconds and then decide, oh, he's not open. Let me see what I have 4 or 5 yards. You can't do that. You can't do it. And so they've had to take that away from Josh because Josh will only look for that. If they give it to him, and there's been some rumors that we might get Justin Jefferson next year, maybe because, GM Brandon Beane and McDermott are feeling pressure and we're opening a new stadium. And if they fail in the playoffs this year, they're going to want to cover up this obvious gaffe, this lack of boundary receiver. They're going to need to cover for that. Otherwise people are going to be screaming for their heads, asking them to get fired. Nobody really wants to see him get fired. We like Sean McDermott and we like Brandon Beane. It's not a great situation to be in where you gotta basically handicap your MVP quarterback because he won't make the right decisions. He'll only look for the big play.
Rise up and just figure out the way to do the Superman thing and win it for him. Eagles won the Super Bowl last year. How disappointing is it if you don't win the next year? They've shown us problems all season long. I'm sorry, dynasties, we're just winning every single year.
Are you an Eagles fan?
I'm an Eagles fan, and I lived for so many years
evil
with
Eagles
McNabb.
fan I've ever heard. I ain't never heard an Eagles fan.
This guy's an Eagles fan, too.
They are disowning you right now.
I went so many years with nothing. The McNabb years, we were so close every year to have it ripped away. I'm so grateful for everything I have now. You look at it, they're not better than the Rams.
He is not an Eagles fan.
I don't
he
think
just
they're
said
better
grateful.
than the Seahawks.
You are not an Eagles fan.
I'm a very reasonable individual.
Yeah, because Eagles fans, they're not grateful.
Yeah, you're welcome.
That's
So
what he
by
means.
that logic, are you going with the Eagles as most disappointing first round exit?
Do you hear? Listen, I sit on this desk every week, and they're trying to fire Sirianni, who has the best winning record in the NFL. It's insanity to me. They running everybody out of Philly every week, and I'm thinking. To your point, they have been not just last year, they won the Super Bowl 2 years before that. I mean, they won a Super Bowl and fired their head coach.